I will call this meeting to order and ask for approval of the agenda. Motion from Bruce, second from Bill. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Public comment. Welcome. Thank you. Good to see you. Moving on to approval of minutes from a regular meeting on September 17th. Any comments or?
Motion.
Motion from Bruce,
I'll second.
second from Deanna. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Approval of financials.
The total that went out in the packet was $22,239.97. This needs to be updated to reflect a late facade reimbursement invoice that came on Friday after the packet was sent out. So the new total is $28,239.97. So some things in there is the QuickBooks, the Manistee Area Chamber, the economic development payment, as well as the executive director, Richardson McDougall, the Eagle 1015 Downtown Manistee Partnership, the reissuing of the Rudablush facade check. The original one was made out to the wrong entity. That check has been returned to me. We have Jack's Shirt Shack for the Fall Festival, Spicer Group Streetscape expense, Weezy's Brothers for the Fall Planters, and then James Pulowski, which is the additional facade reimbursement that we got in.
Thank you. Any questions for Nicole or Andrew?
I'll make a motion to approve the financials from September 2025.
Motion.
I just want to add lib to that. I do believe that there's more Fall Festival invoices coming.
I'm sure there are more coming. I haven't received any yet besides the one from
So
Jackie.
as it stands right now, yes, I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay, so motion from Deanna,
Second.
second from Bruce. Any comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Executive report, Andrew.
So it was a busy month, 24 economic development contacts in a lot on some key properties in downtown. We've seen a lot of movement on like 4 major like legacy blighted property. 348, so the Music Vault, that officially closed back in September. And so we've been working with that gentleman who is now the owner of that property to kind of put some pressure on him to at least get the low hanging fruit on the property, that exterior facade, clean it up. And so he's currently working with an architect to get site plans and start moving on that property. So I've been in constant communications, probably bi-weekly communications, just checking in and making sure everything's going smoothly, and then starting to identify potential programs and incentives to help offset some of those costs. But that project's still a ways out, but hopefully the exterior will get cleaned up, starting probably in the spring of next year. So you can kind of look to that and be hopeful for the Music Vault. It's gonna be the commercial down below, and then as much residential as they can fit in elsewhere. And so rather than one big commercial space, probably 2.
Is he doing anything on the back of the building?
That wants to. So we'll see to what extent though, because that back, if you've gone back there, there's like several boxes. There's consumers boxes right there that are probably like 10, 15 feet off the back of the building. So it's kind of like, can you even put something over the top of those? Probably not. But I connected them with consumers and they're working on seeing what's feasible. They can even move those boxes. But otherwise, 437, which is the Art Institute, had a meeting regarding that building with an interested buyer. 870 Division Street, that's Where Hardware. That is kind of an ongoing project, very, very early stages on that. But working with a potential buyer on that property. And then 375, which is the PNC building, still working with the new owner of that building on their potential project. We've been able to get them MEDC dollars for that project to cover some of the pre-development cost, and they're still working through their planning phase with site plan development. So those are the 3 big kind of projects from a building standpoint. But had a lot of conversation with, our existing businesses, had about 6 business retention visits in downtown, which was great. Streetscape continues to move forward. We had a meeting with the Community Foundation right at the end of September to just see how their property down where the RAP grant's happening, they own that fountain triangle, trying to determine how they might be able to assist the RAP grant and have a conducive design of that triangle that fits what we're trying to do with the RAP grant. So that was a productive conversation, and Spicer is still working towards, I guess, identifying design elements that need to be determined so they can go out and create a bid package that's released probably in November, early December. And then they would receive bids late December, early January, and that would allow us to get construction moving in the spring of 26, which is kind of the timeline Spicer has, and that was our desire as well, trying to get it done, or at least started in the spring, so there's movement on that streetscape portion.
Just one comment going back to 348 River Street. I understand like the bigger picture of the project, what he wants to do, but
Yeah.
there's like trim that's just laying on the sidewalk and landscape.
Yeah.
Like 2 hours of cleanup would go a long way from like a lawn company.
Yeah.
So if we could just,
I can mention that to him. He's not from here, and I don't know. It sounds like he'd only come up twice
okay,
before, and so I've been pushing him to like get the sign down as quick as possible
Yeah.
to like, hey, there's just some things where you can probably go a long way with like $10,000 for that building with like sign removal,
Yeah.
to your point,
I'd
like the
like-
trim that's peeling off.
well, I'm just like
Yeah.
a couple $100 for just cleanup that's laying on the ground.
He
On this,
owns it now, right?
Yes, outright.
Okay, well, he's gonna have an ongoing responsibility.
Yeah.
That's like, might as well start now.
And if you could send me a picture, and maybe if he's not responsive.
thank you, Andrew. Any questions on that stuff? Okay, moving on to reports from subcommittees, facade grant.
So this month, we did have James Pulowski finish up his painting of the CC Jewelers building. So that's had a fresh coat of paint on it. And that is getting dispersed or reimbursed rather at this meeting. Has already been signed. I just wanted to let everybody know that was kind of the last, or that is one of the facade projects from 24-25. So that was awarded last year. And we have 2 remaining projects from 24-25 being Pipe and Clover as well as Z-Cart Rentals. So Ben could be trying to get in communications with them. Their deadlines for Z-Cart Rentals is, I'm pretty sure, December. And so there hasn't been any movement. So I have tried reaching out and just haven't had a whole lot of responsiveness there. And so we might need to pull that facade grant back if there's no communication. Lauren's deadline at Pipe and Clover is next spring around April. She's expressed that they might need a small extension into May, just given what the contractor said the timeline is. But given her, being communicative and actually saying, hey, we might need this, that's helpful because that's what we can do. We can, amend that contract to give her that extra month or 2, whatever it is, especially if they're expecting movement in the winter. So. And then the next line item, I hope you all got that memo and were able to read it. We kind of had some, I guess, movement on the MEDC grant earlier this month, the first 2 weeks of October. Just to give some background information, back in 22-23, Mark Miller got awarded that grant, or wrote a grant, and the DDA received that grant from MEDC for $150,000. And so 5 existing facade projects that weren't able to get awarded in that year were put into that program. And so those 5 projects were listed in that memo. It was Golden Stag, Bluefish, the Elks, Dwelling Realty, and the Spicer Group. And so between those 5 projects, that 150 was already spoken for. But unfortunately, both the Golden Stag and the Bluefish scaled back their projects. Connie didn't let me know this until the 2nd week of October. I had gone with her to the Historic District Commission to get permits just in September. And so it was a bit of a shock to hear that they were kind of pulling the plug on a deck expansion. And that was a lot of money. That whole work cost was about 130. And so that was $72,000 worth of grant funds that were going to the Bluefish. And so now with the way the MEDC has that grant working, we need to have those funds dispersed by March 31st of 2026.
First,
Dispersed, yep. And so that's the thing is there's not a whole lot of time to go find new projects to use those funds, just because of the timeline, finding contractors that have availability and can get work done, which is pretty tight.
how much of do we have a backlog in unfunded projects?
So we don't have, we don't have a backlog. We've only not funded one project so far, and that was the tuck pointing down at Purple Paintbrush and the High Vibes Tattoo Parlor down there, those 3 stores. That's the only one we haven't funded this year. But the total grant amount that we have remaining now that both those projects scaled back is $88,450 in grant funds. And so that's over half the grant that wouldn't get dispersed. And so in talking with the grant manager at MEDC, she highly encouraged, well, if you have projects that haven't been dispersed yet, but are kind of already going, those might be good projects to put into the program to help cover that difference. And so in my memo, I kind of ask for I recommend that we put Well Nested, who they're just at the finish line, their work's pretty much completed, we just haven't reimbursed them, that we have Well Nested enter the program, and that would look like a new contract. We already had an existing contract to give Well Nested $37,500 for their facade work. It was a little less than what they actually requested. And so to help even offset more MEDC dollars, I recommended kind of bumping that up to $44,735. And that way we would be left with a total of $52,573 in that MEDC grant that would still need to be funded. But I've been talking to a couple of the projects, like the Music Vault or like the PNC building, where they're kind of already in the process of fixing up those buildings, and they might be kind of more ready to go than others. I've talked to a couple businesses just like trying to see what projects are out there and what businesses have the capacity to do work. And so if we do move forward with Well Nested at that full $44,735, again, $52,000 is left over. And so I think we can really get that down, to at least probably like 15,000, hopefully 0, right? Anything that we don't spend has to be returned to MEDC. And so we should get the second disbursement of 75,000 in the next 30 days from MEDC, because we applied for that back in the last week of September. And so, that's the situation. I just wanted to make sure that was kind of out, set in a public meeting. And then if we do move forward with the Well Nested, I want to make sure that's transparent, because this board did approve the $37,500 originally. And this is not I want to just make it clear, it's not a recommendation of the facade committee. These were projects that were before Kyle and Sammy and myself were on the facade committee. And so I know there was concern of just, kind of wanting to not mess with that. So that recommendation is coming directly from me for that increase for Well Nested. That's kind of one of the steps that we can take to start mitigate, really getting those funds out there. And so I would look for a motion to kind of make that change, and then I can get a new contract in place with Teresa Kiefer at Well Nested to kind of execute that, and then it would get reimbursed probably in November, because she's right there at the finish line with completing that work. I would need a motion just to, kind of.
So Tyler, you made a motion. Okay.
I'll second, but I want some discussion.
Yeah. All right.
Just-
So go ahead.
The purple paintbrush, so you said there could be some funds left over, so you can engage them about potentially seeing what they can do. I don't know, Warner's in town, they do, but yeah, we're just gonna see if that can be ready to go, just in case.
Yeah.
I don't wanna, anything we can do to.
Yeah.
More improvements.
So the projects and the funds would have to be dispersed by March.
March 31st is we need all the money that we had received out And then we have until the end of April to actually get all the paperwork in place. And get certificates of completion and kind of close out the grant with
So it's not that it can't be a new project, it's just
Yeah, it,
okay.
it could be a new project. It's more so the timeline traditionally that I've seen with contractors. Everybody who does painting and masonry work has really been booked out, their schedules are looking into next summer.
Right.
I've talked to a couple painting companies, a couple masonry companies, they're like, yeah, we have no availability until August already. And so it's kind of like, okay, that's not, not great when we're looking for new projects. And it's something that I was also thinking that we might want to push the facade application, kind of let people know that there is more funds out right now and make that public, just so there's that like fair and equitable chance of actually applying. But I would probably guess that a lot of people wouldn't be able to get that timeline down. But I think what I want to do probably later this week is do that blast of, hey, like facade program, we have extra dollars out, and kind of encourage people to look into it and really make it public. So we could be accepting new projects, just, it's kind of tough.
Okay.
So bizarre, but is there any availability in contractors for something else that downtown needs a lot, like brick facade maintenance, or are there contractors who do have idle time? Because we could announce it backwards and say, we have funding available for this particular kind of work.
Okay.
It would happen right away. Does your property need this? Apply here.
Okay.
Right? Something special. I don't know
Yeah.
what that would be, but
Yeah.
if somebody does have availability, let's sell it.
Yeah, and I bet there are contractors out there. It's just the ones I've talked to haven't.
Yeah.
But so I bet we could continue to reach out and find a couple. Tyler, do you have any thoughts, I guess, on like how to go about it with
No,
your
I-
experience in the
agree with
past?
What you're saying, you gotta spend the money and you don't have a lot of time. So,
Yeah.
I think reaching out to the contractors, seeing if they have any customers that have projects coming out. It's probably a pretty good way to get some, that are ready.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Let's clarify motion.
Yes. Will you clarify your motion?
To increase the agreement with Well Nested, correct?
Correct.
In the
Yeah,
amount of.
yeah, in the amount,
$4,735.
great memory, yeah.
Say up to, yeah.
And Bill, you second?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Any more discussion or clarification? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, Andrew, for your work on that.
Yep.
Streetscape update.
Streetscape, I kind of gave it in my executive report. We had met with the community foundation. They had some ideas about the design with the RAP grant. Nicole mentioned in the finances that, we did pay out Spicer, and that's just due to their continual design work, trying to get those designs to, nearly 100% construction ready, because that's what they need to do to actually bid those out. And so that timeline's still true. Me and Lucas have talked, and, we're still gunning for that spring construction timeframe. And we have a streetscape meeting this Friday to really get into the nitty gritties about design, things like bollards, and softscape. So,
We're trying to have that all done by November or mid-November.
yeah.
The one thing I did is just, Andrew and I have talked about a joint meeting, part of our RRC requirement, and so I'm talking with Mayor. I was looking at maybe having this as one of the items, maybe having the DDA and what council, we could have HTC or something, but looking at this, it would possibly be December 9th, so I wanted to throw that out, but 5:30, we might do the Open Meetings Act and Robert's Rules kind of overview, but I think that's kind of the point too. We just kind of, there's been a lot of work that went into this. I think it's just kind of time to really sit down and talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah, and on that note,
I'm sorry,
Planning too.
planning, I think that's, mostly. Anything you want to add to that?
no, You jumped ahead in the agenda. That's item, under business. No worries. Adding on to that, though, I did communicate with, Brandon Jensen at Rice Side because, he's really swamped right now. He ended up having some surprise projects come that he thought he had a little more time on. And so we're gonna get a proposal for that second phase of the marketing plan. That's gonna be pushed back probably until January. But I communicated with them, you know, from a marketing standpoint, is it okay for us to go live kind of with the streetscape? And he said, absolutely, you know, if you get, because you guys already have that presentation, you know, might just need some tweaking, some updating, but having it kind of be a, I guess a reveal at this joint meeting with city council and planning commission, it's a good platform because everybody's already in the room to receive the information. It's timely, and that way we don't need to have people come here or go to their meeting. We'll all already have a meeting scheduled for that. So he was okay with it. That was my point.
It's the first time I've heard us call it marketing. I think it was always communications.
Yeah, communication, sorry, my bad.
That's all right. So shall we pencil in the 9th?
I'm gonna send it to council too, but I want, it's tentative, but I'm gonna be pushing for that.
Okay. That's all for streetscape, I
Yep.
think. Moving on to events.
And so Deanna wanted the event coordinator discussion on this agenda. And so Dee, I'll turn it over to you. Just to kind of start that discussion and share your thoughts on, you know, an event coordinator, what that might look like, I guess. And yeah, if anybody has anything to add. Let it open.
Thank you so much for letting this be on the agenda. As I think you all know, I'm pretty passionate about this as we engage in building our downtown. And I think we can all agree, like if we look back 5 years ago to where it is today, leaps and bounds, and there's been a lot of work put into that. And we need to showcase our downtown. We need to show that off, and we need to bring in commerce. We need to bring people into our downtown, and we have to have reasons to invite them downtown. Businesses, of course, is we want to be the one reason why people come downtown, but then how also can we attract them for seeing our downtown, seeing the difference? How can we get rid of the paradigm of people saying, oh, the Outpost, like, when did you come here? How long have you been here? Like 20 some years. And, you know, I mean, I'd like to get rid of that and have more reason for even our local people, and then to invite people from out of the community to come to our downtown. And how you do that is through events and through the invite and now social media, drawing them downtown. To do that, though, takes a lot of work. And some of the events that we do, I feel like Fall Festival really is for our community. We're probably not going to pull a lot of people from Midland, Grand Rapids, downstate, but some events we do. Forest Festival, Sleigh Bell. We would like to grow the Frostbite Festival with the chili contest. We also have been in contact with a group out of Illinois that brings his trailer, brings 5 blocks of ice, carves 3 of them premature, carves 2 of them here, working with. That's just a lot to coordinate, and it's a lot of fundraising. And I feel like to do events right and to do more of them. And when I say I've been in contact with a lot of business owners downtown that we speak with. So this is not just myself. That having a person to take on the duties of that, and then business owners form and meet and can be helpful to that. I just find a lot of value in showcasing our downtown and having somebody, a paid position that would do that. That would be somebody's job to do that. This all benefits in that, in my proposal or my thought and thinking is well, let's back up a second. So you can't put this all on the chamber. The chamber just doesn't have enough. From what we've heard, they are not interested in running events. And now they've kind of been put into the position of being the fiduciary for events because that made sense. But I don't know that we ever had that conversation that that's where it belongs.
I just want to make one thing clear.
Yes.
The fiduciary is DDA.
Is the DDA,
not
thank
the
you.
chamber, and so we gotta make sure that delineation is very, very clear. And so, yeah, the DDA has been the fiduciary for it. But to your point, yes, the chamber has, obviously widened its scope to, not really focus on events, but continue. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
But I see the chamber kind of getting pulled into events. Carmen is now attending meetings with Julia about Sleigh Bell. And so, but is that where that time is allocated for Carmen? I don't know. That's why we're opening up this discussion. So my thought is that through the DDA, it also would benefit the tourism, because when we bring more people to town, we're putting more heads on beds, and that's, what they're about. And I'm sorry that Sammy's not here, because I'd love her to be a part of this discussion, but I would love to also, if we get to the point that we have DDA support on this, then take it to the tourism board, also take it to city council to get, because the third leg of that would be the city of Manistee, because they'd be very much involved too. Yes, I speak on behalf of this from the downtown, but it also could be opened up to the community.
When you say from the downtown, what do you mean by that?
I'm saying, like, I've had discussions with merchants from downtown or business owners from downtown.
Specifically merchants.
Merchants, yes, yep. That see the value in this, because we have some merchants that, yes, like to write the check. We have some merchants that give a lot of their time to these events. And we have some merchants that do nothing but benefit from the events. They sit back and, and it's okay. I mean, some people just find more value in running their businesses. Some people find more value in bringing people downtown to support our businesses. But I don't think that that's where event coordinating, I don't believe that it belongs just on business owners. Yes, we all benefit from it, but so does the community and so does the city. When we bring people to town, Microtels filling beds, Super 8's filling beds. Restaurants, not just on River Street, but restaurants abroad are being full and finding the impact of bringing people to town. So that's my discussion. In looking at other communities that have benefited from event coordinators, we've been in contact with them. Beulah runs it they have an interesting take on it, where business owners give into this fund. Now, remember, Beulah has maybe all of 8 businesses downtown, right? But business owners give into this fund, as does other funding options, but then they don't give as much to their chamber. They pay like 50% of their chamber dues and 50% into this event coordinator dues. So whatever it looks like, I just am really happy that we can bring this to the table and have this discussion to see if there's value in furthering this discussion with tourism in the city.
So can I ask, out of ignorance, I mean, I think it's worthwhile to talk about a function and not a person. There are companies that do this, and whenever you talk about hiring an employee, they got to be managed. There has to be an infrastructure behind them managing them. And, when people say they don't want to get into that, what they're really saying is, I don't want to take on another employee and manage this function. So one of the options on the table is to buy these services. I'm wondering, have we done that before? Do we know of, event coordination, consultants around here?
Back in what have been 2016, I sent out an RFP for exactly that. And the firm would keep, so the requirement was like 12 events a year or something, and then we have how many liquor licenses? 6, 12 or something like that. Plus the chamber has some and whatnot, so they could run those, revenue generating events, keep the profit, and then also they were required to do some public events, free public events throughout the year. We got 2 bids on that.
So they just keep the revenue, that's all they do.
Well, and there was a monthly stipend. It was like, I want to say $2,000.
Mike, one of my comments, because I probably have a lot, is the term event is really broad. And so just to assume that events in general are good and beneficial is a broad statement. And so I think one of the successes that we've seen when the DDA said, hey, we're not running events. If the event is gonna happen, it has to be volunteer based and there has to be a chairperson for that event. It's not that we don't support it, it's just like, if it happens, you have to have a person, non-staff, run that event, then it has to be successful. And if it's not, it goes away and it fails. And so just to say that events are good, I don't agree with that. Some events are good, well-run events, and we all, can point out. But I think there's certain key ones that are important, but more in my mind is not better. And they can be disruptive to everyday commerce and business, and assuming that, this obviously I'm known for this one, is closing streets is good. I mean, let's just not assume that all these things are good. There can be good. So I just want to point out that the term event is pretty broad, and I don't know that more is better. And I guess the only second thing I'll say is the DDA is funded through tax dollars, so the property taxes specifically. So we need to keep that in mind. We have discussed over many years contributing to something like this, a coordinator, but not running it or doing it or employing that positions.
In the DDA Act, you can raise millage for marketing events and things like that. So it's specifically in the DDA Act that's a vital tool to use, or at least the state considers that. So I wouldn't, not throwing out we raise millage or anything, but it is in the DDA Act.
Specifically for that only?
For marketing.
Okay.
Under the sort of umbrella of events, there's, at least in my mind, there's sort of a category of ongoing activities downtown that you promote. If we had an area to display art, we could promote that, and people are drawn to that area because the display, the exhibition changes, the arts change. We don't have a regular schedule in a regular place downtown for outdoor music. There can be regularly scheduled, in a particular area, one restaurant can sponsor, outdoor picnics or outdoor meals or something. There are lots of regular activities that, can draw people to a place that in my mind, fall into the category of events. But as you say, setting things up, changing things out, coordinating people is a thing. And it takes, time and effort. And so in addition to the kinds of events where we talk about closing streets, there are much lighter impact events that draw people that we don't do. And I think that has a huge impact on the amount of time that people spend in a downtown area, because you can just sort of not plan it and go down because something's going on someplace. And right now that's not really true, because we haven't put our minds to it to say we have to have something going on someplace all the time.
And
So that's my idea.
Yep.
My idea of this is not a bunch of big events closing down streets. My idea is we need to have something going on all the time for the people like me with short attention spans.
no, that's exactly true. So I like, we call them activities, small activities, we call them big events, and however you define that. But that's exactly right. If we look at communities, neighboring communities, Ludington, on Friday night lights, simple, they're not closing down streets. They're bringing, but a vital downtown is imperative to a vital community, all the way around. Also,
I think, sorry,
Yeah.
Go ahead, sorry.
Well, so, but to have that person, to have a person or a committee that is dedicated to exactly that, something going on, something, art, music, car shows, bringing people to our community that can't be placed on business owners that also, number one, have the goal of growing their businesses. I mean, that is the reason that we are downtown as business owners is number one, commerce. I mean, I wake up every morning to say, how can I provide a positive experience for my customers? Secondly, how can I provide a positive experience for downtown? But my first goal has to be bringing customers through the door and making sure they're treated right, but if I'm away from my business, if Anita is away from her business, if say Shelley, if is away from their business, if we're away from our business doing these things, then I mean, it's just really impossible to oversee it all.
One thing that comes to mind too, Deanna, in a way that the DDA certainly can and is helping is creating spaces and opportunities. So the area down by the triangle in the fountain area, the RAP grant project, that's continuing to change a little bit, but that is certainly going to be a space where regular things can happen. And so we've also talked about the parking lot that we own next to Dick's Barber Shop. Maybe that isn't a parking lot. Maybe that's another space and an opportunity. So I just want to point that out, not to detract from your coordinator.
No, that's beautiful. So that's providing the beautiful where.
Mhm. Yeah.
But then how do we provide the who? Who's gonna get the people to the where?
And I don't think we'll come to a conclusion today, obviously, on that, and so I think it might be a good idea to convene the event committee that's already created and get some hard facts and numbers down. And because I think like going with the company rather than an actual hire is a great idea. Tyler, I don't know where exactly that went after you released the RFP. Did that just get shot down with the board or?
It was right when I was on my way out the door.
Okay, so we can explore those options, actually get ideas of, okay, what would a company look like? And I think maybe actually bring the players into the room because, I can't sit here and speak from a chamber standpoint, right? That's a different hat that I wear. And so I think getting the committee together, the event committee together, and then having a more robust conversation that has metrics around it, maybe a couple of quotes from different companies. I think that might be a good way to continue this conversation and then come back with a more concrete, hey, we know for a fact that the chamber or that tourism, has this desire, or the city has this in their budget that they might be able to contribute. But something to also keep in mind is within our TIF plan, we've budgeted 125,000, of course, across the course of the TIF for event promotion and facilitation. And so that's the smallest line item. And so I think, the activities of the DDA should reflect that obviously in that TIF plan, that was the smallest line item. But it is an item in there, right? And we do have funds in our TIF plan that are slated for promotion and facilitation, whatever that may mean. And so I think looking at that amount and saying, okay, how much over the course of the TIF can we actually expend year over year is another good thing that we might want to look at and can bring towards a discussion at like a subcommittee level and then come back.
I'd like to add, something as a parameter
Okay.
for everybody of from my perspective, that everybody on this, event committee should consider. It is a mistake for events to be publicly perceived as the home. The DDA is the home of events. Events are a shared community thing. And the consideration and management of that should also be community as represented by participation from the city council, participation from, the planning commission, community members. So we can start this discussion about what the structure needs to look like. We can even pose something, but the guidance of this ultimately and paying for it and participating in it should not be exclusively DDA. I do not want future for, you know, people to turn around and say, why isn't the DDA doing this kind of event or that? No, it's the community. And we need to make sure that that's clear from the outset to everyone. We can suggest solutions here. I think it's great to have those beginning discussions, and I'm happy the TDA is doing that. But the solution is going to have to be a community solution and managed by the community and, you know, a committee that's has representation from council and DDA and merchants
In tourism, we
and
need to
tourism.
keep tourism in
Yeah.
here. Yes.
Can you, thank you. Can you remind me who's on the subcommittee for events? Does it, you know?
I have to pull it.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Nicole. Good discussion.
And it's good to, it would be good to get the county, you know, get Jeff
Yes,
Dodds on.
Jeff, to get Commissioner on board as well.
Deanna, Lindsay and Bill. And then
I'd like
Andrew
to,
Whitman.
yeah, we could add Bruce to all, and I think,
Be careful there.
yeah. But I would like to add though, that like you know, when the city took on the sleigh bell parade, so one thing with our contract with the chamber is though we did ask for them to play more of a support role. So that was one thing that's the reason that Carmen's, and they've been great. I mean, it is important that there's that communication and cohesiveness with these, because there does need to be interactions between our different organizations about something major like that. I think the thing I found with the events, there's so many different levels. And I think the way we kind of wanted to shape it is the Forest Fest and the Sleigh Bar are the two biggest ones. And it really is the expenditure level. It's kind of like, does the city need to be the fiduciary for an event that's $1,000? It just doesn't make sense. And that's same with the DDA. There needs to be thresholds, but there always needs to be a lead and a support role. And I think we all have to play, to Bruce's point, we all have to play that support role. But who's bringing up every week having some band play, that has to be an idea. And I think the event subcommittee could bring that up. We did have that event trailer the DDA is supportive, I think, by committee resources, but someone needs to bring the idea forward and then we need to kind of rally around it and make it happen. So I think,
Right.
Banner's point, I think we could start having that subcommittee meeting, see what we can do.
Going on, though, I do want to say something on behalf of the chamber. We are not looking to give up the Forest Festival. That will remain under the chamber, so that won't be an event that gets handed to a committee or something like that. I just want to make that clear. A couple of people have mentioned Forest Festival as an idea. Chamber's keeping that. That's my whole job, is planning that.
Flag has been
Just wanna-
planted.
Very clear, the Forest Festival is not up for grabs. The chamber is keeping it.
Yeah, as for sleigh bell as well. I'm not sure that the people or the entities involved in that want to move that either. How can we grow more to our downtown though? And again, that's opening up this discussion. To do that as we beautify the downtown, as we look at streetscape and planting trees, and how do we get to enjoy more of that?
Yeah.
That look
I
of
don't know,
planting
the
trees.
tree, it was the tree comment. There was a lot of discussion in the last streetscape meeting about the trees.
I wasn't applying
So
the law, I
sorry.
just happened to say I want more trees.
Her intent did not.
Sorry.
You weren't supposed to see that.
Okay, great discussion. Thank you for the.
And I'll send out an
opportunity
email. I'll send out an email to the event committee and then we can hopefully meet probably next week realistically for scheduling purposes. So I'll start a couple dates though, and we can get together and I can work on getting maybe like a couple quotes from event companies. And just gather some more information. So we actually have a more robust discussion as to like paths forward.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Deanna. Good discussion. Moving on to old business, vacation mode promotion. Oh,
So we had a total of $3,203.30 that was spent in September. That program has stopped handing out cards as of September 21st with the airport closing for maintenance. However, the expiration date on all these cards is December 24th, 2025. So we will likely still see redemptions made. To date, we have seen $8,951.73 spent. 188 cards were handed out. as of September 30th, only 94 of them were used and activated. And then that would be a potential of 9,400 to be spent, but we've only seen a little under 9,000 actually spent.
What's the overall consensus on this?
I would say it's been very successful over the summer months. To date, we've seen about $18,000 spent with the Manistee County Cash Program, which is above last year's already, and we still have a couple months to go.
The airport is open again. Are we not gonna continue?
No, the program originally was gonna end September 30th anyway.
Okay.
And then with the closure on the 21st, they just decided to stop.
Okay, makes sense. Cool, thanks. Any questions for Nicole? Moving on to new business, meeting dates for 2026.
So this
There they
is,
are.
this is a request from the city. Heather will need these approved before, like these approved before December. So, there hasn't been a major changes to, I mean, it's, yeah.
The bylaws of the second Wednesday at 8:30 in the
Yeah.
morning.
And we can change that if we want to, but
Yeah.
it was changed at 8:30 years ago because of childcare. So we can, it used to be noon at an old restaurant, so.
Yeah, or
There's
something like that.
I don't know if we had any drinkers.
Discussion on that, I'd like to keep it at 8:30. That's good.
But we'll need a motion.
Well, maybe 8:32.
Are we adding the informational meetings in here too? The two, we typically do them in January.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we don't forget.
Yeah, no, and we'll make sure they're in there then to like identify which ones would most likely be informational sessions.
Unless no one wants to propose new times, places, or dates, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the 2026 meeting dates with the, what are we calling those, Bill? Informational meetings identified on the dates as well.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion. Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Joint meeting, RRC.
So we've kind of already talked about this, but RRC requires that the city hold a joint meeting between several of its entities. And the DDA was identified as one that would be useful to participate in that meeting. And Bill already mentioned that, the thought would be reviewing the Open Meetings Act, Robert's Rule of Order, streetscape, several other, city topics that would be useful. And so right now it's DDA, Planning Commission, City Council. And so, not trying to add more meetings for everybody to attend to, but it's something that to stay redevelopment ready through the state of Michigan, it's a task that we need to do, and it would be useful to have everybody there.
We're typically doing those priority sites, and I think Apple's been communicating with Andrew, they really want to see a separate meeting, but I think we have enough. I think the streetscape's kind of the big thing that.
Okay.
Work well with us.
Is this at the city at 7 o'clock?
It'll probably be 5:30, but yeah, I'll confirm it next week.
Okay. Moving on to public comment. Board member comment?
Thanks for rescheduling this one, so
Yeah.
we missed it
Yeah.
again.
I would have said wonderful things to Sammy had she been here, because the banners are up and they're spectacular.
Yeah.
That's a huge deal. I'll save it for next time.
She had some flight issues, otherwise she would have been here. Tyler?
Almost.
Oh,
Good, thank you.
yeah.
Just touching on earlier, buildings and facades and sightliness, I wonder if there's an opportunity to talk to the people, that have the Big Fish building. Throughout the winter time, it's closed down and we get to enjoy the sight of dead flies in the window. This will be like the fourth winter in a row that they've closed down with no preparation of closing down. Is there an opportunity to talk to them about it looking a little better, especially, through Sleigh Bell and through our whole winter, and it's part of our downtown.
Does the tenant own the building?
believe so.
I would need to review the DDA sheet that I have for property owners, but I think they're different owners. I don't think the gentleman who owns Big Fish is also the building owner. But I can confirm and reach out to whoever the building owner is.
That'd be a good place to start.
That's all.
Lindsay?
I'm good. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, man. Deanna, thank you both. Great, rest of your week.